Welcome in to game number 3 in this Chobo Team League Week 4 match between Team Composite and the Killer Pikachus. Spawning in the left-hand position of GSL Antigua Shipyard in the red color, playing for Team Composite. His team is up 2-0 so far. It is Vash. And spawning across from him in the yellow color, playing Terran for the Killer Pikachus, it is Void. So we're into our gold level game, our first gold level game of this. I always kind of want to call them clan battles, but that's not what they are. We're not clans by any means. I guess this Team League match. For those of you unfamiliar with Chobo Team League, it's a best of 7 match where the skill level of the players alternates. It's bronze, silver, gold, platinum, silver, gold, platinum. The last platinum game is a best of 3 ace match, usually between the best players from their respective teams. If you're interested in the league, check out choboteamleague.engine.com. So we do see an early scout coming up from Vash, and he'll be able to get in way before this Wallen's able to happen, and perhaps counting on that because he did do the pylon scout. So a lot of valuable scouting information for our Protoss player. Again, my name is Meristematic. Thank you for watching this. Eventually the VODs will be up on YouTube, youtube.com/meristematic.sc. I'm going to work on getting the Evolution versus Payback VODs up later tonight, so please check those out. I felt like I did a really good cast, so please do check that out. I'll also work on getting the Guns N' Roaches versus Anarchy game up from week 4. So we do see Vash taking that early gas. This looks like kind of like a 1-gate expand so far, although I don't want to say that with any certainty, because there's still a lot of options available to our Protoss. Vash actually going to get really supply blocked at 18, so instead of that, it will be that 1-gate expand. Okay. So just kind of checking up on things in the Terran base. Vash still able to see everything with the Scout Probe on patrol. There is an SCV following him, although I'm not entirely sure why. There's also the Marine out now, so that should go down eventually. Vash looks like he wants to try to get the probe out, but realizing there's a wall in, and that's not quite going to work, so he's just going to try and preserve the Scout for as long as possible, and be very, very annoying. But we do see 400 minerals now banked up for Void, so this will be the 1-Rax gasless fast expand. There's even an SCV down at the natural, just kind of not throwing it down yet for some reason. There it is. Yeah. So the expansion for Vash actually significantly ahead of his opponent. We're 51-9 right now, so about a 40-second lead on that expansion for Vash. Now, while that doesn't sound like much, that can eventually snowball into something big, just because that 40-second lead is 2 workers worth of production. With Chrono Boost, it's about 2.5, and just having those extra couple of workers can mean the difference between life and death, especially in a matchup like this, where it can be so close. Granted, that's more significant in mirror matchups, but in terms of non-mirrors, I would say it's most significant in this one. We do see first Zealot out for Vash, which is something a lot of Protosses have been foregoing recently. But I do like just having that Zealot around. It's really good early game if you want to put on a little pressure onto your opponent's bunker. You can take damage with your Zealot while shooting with your Stalker, and just do a little bit of clever micro that way. But we do see the Warp Gate technology as well as Stalker number 1 and Sentry number 1 on the way for Vash, going up to his second Gas Geyser in his main, and everything looking really, really good. This is a great little cheeky scout right now from Void. He'll be able to use that later on. He can even suicide that up in base later on and see what tech path his opponent's chosen. Robo, of course, is the most common in this matchup, but Twilight Council can be very, very good on this map, as there's this gigantic cliff area that you can blink up and down and really harass your opponent. It's the same kind of idea as Terran going for early medevacs on this map, just because you can drop up and down this cliff and really force your opponent's army to be where you want it. We do see a little bit of an early supply lead for Vash, but Void should be just fine catching up. First Tech Lab on the way, his engineering bay is actually done. He may have been a little bit worried about but we see that's not the case. He even gets in and sees gateways number 3 and 4, and nice scouting information gathered by Void. The SCV will go down here shortly, maybe. Oh no. Tickle beam to death by the sentry, so we see Disciple Sentry with 1 kill. So congratulations to him on the first kill of the game. And a second, the scout for Vash went down. My apologies, taking awards away from people. One of the Marines over here probably has it. He might be in the bunker. Probably in the bunker. Regardless, second bunker coming up at the front from Void. And again, I feel like he might be misreading his opponent a little bit. 4 gateways off of 2 bases isn't the most aggressive build by any means. But there's the Twilight Council from Vash. That's going to be his tech choice. And that's actually really important and also unscouted by Void. So Blink will probably be on the way. If you do tend to get that early Twilight Council, it is for Blink, just because that's much more useful, especially on this map, getting up and down this cliff, if you have an observer. And as I say that, I'm entirely wrong, as Vash goes for the charge upgrade very quickly. Charge is great when you start getting into that sort of mid to late game fight where you're fighting out in the open, but going up into your opponent's base with charge can actually be kind of bad, I guess. Just because you do take more damage from the bunkers. It does allow the Zealots to be in the front, but if you do kind of mess up your micro at all, your Zealots can get into weird positions just because of that charge. You see Void adding on barracks number 4 and 5. His factory nearly done now, so not in any hurry to get those medevacs out. Really content to play passively and get his third base and get those SCVs up. And that could be a lot of trouble as a Terran player, especially against a Protoss who's going for an early storm. Which I actually don't see anywhere. There it is. So the early storm on the way, and we'll start seeing a couple of those Templars being mixed in. And Vash, rather than getting up that core gateway army that you'll tend to see, is just going to go straight for charge without Archon. There's nothing wrong with that, especially if your opponent doesn't put on any early pressure. Like right now, if Void were to move across the map with his gigantic barracks production, he's up to nearly 6 of these barracks. That could be a lot of trouble, but as we see, instead going to add-ons, get his third base up, and play very, very passively. And this is playing into Vash's hands. He wanted a passive game from the start. And Vash will be able to get his ideal maxed out composition, which right now looks like it's going to be Charge Lot Templar Archon. He may mix in a Colossus or 2 as well, getting that robotics facility. It could be for Immortals, could just be for Observers. Nothing wrong with that either. But this is kind of allowing Vash to dictate the game, even though there's no pressure being applied. But now the starport finally done for Void. He'll start getting those medevacs. He'll be able to start putting on a little bit of pressure if he wants to. You see, he's really been focusing on his upgrades. Up to 1-0 already, getting 2-0 very quickly. But the double forge is now down for Vash, so he'll be able to catch up very quickly. And we see he actually starts both upgrades immediately, chrono boosts them out. So he'll be able to catch up, kind of, in terms of that. And we even see getting set for some drops, putting down a couple of photon cannons, throwing his High Templar in the corner of his base. If he spots that medevac coming in, he can feedback that and maybe kill it before it's even able to drop off any units. These photon cannons help out immensely as well, and something you don't see enough Protosses doing. Now Void's supply blocked, unfortunately, at 89 supply, and we don't see very many supply depots. There's 3 in production now, so he'll finally get off that, but using this little bit of a break to add on even more barracks. So he'll be up to 9 very, very quickly. Only 4 with Tech Labs, 5 now, and adding on more and more add-ons, and just getting all of his production set. But where is he going to go from late game? Late game Marine the Marauder starts to fall off, and I think a lot of Terran players are starting to realize that, and you need some sort of other plan. Vash looks like he wants to take his third base. We see a little bit of a supply leak, although not the biggest difference. The Scout Factory going to come in here from Void. This is, of course, the most efficient way of scouting as a Terran player. You see, you just mount the rocket launchers on the back of the factory, and then, yeah, it's the most efficient way. I won't hear any arguments otherwise. Or Prism on the way from Vash, and it looks like he might finally want to do a little bit of aggressiveness as well. He could also use this to supplement his maxed out push across the map. but this is kind of, I would say, the traditional gold level game. A lot of gold players will tend to sit back and max out on their favorite unit composition, and then we'll A-move them into the middle of the map and see who comes out on top. And it's a trap that a lot of gold players fall into, and then you end up dying to a lot of timing attacks and that sort of thing. But it's a really solid macro-style way to play, and one that I think a lot of players, as they're coming up, tend to hit at about gold level. Just kind of an observation that I've had through the years. But we do see Void getting supply blocked again. And did he actually see the observer? These Marines looking around for something. It looks like he's going to patrol. Maybe he did spot the warp prism coming out. Let's actually check up on the warp prism. There it is. Two Templar and 2 Zealots in the warp prism. So this is actually a fairly expensive drop for him. And he can do an immediate storm drop and then leave the Zealots around to clean up anything. They might just be damaged after the storm. So we'll see exactly how Vash wants to micro this. This can do a lot of damage, or it can fall flat on its face and you just wind up losing a lot of gas. You see the Observer going to sneak over to the 3rd and check everything out, and really good scouting information has been gathered so far by our red Protoss player. Void, meanwhile, starting to add on these ghosts. No cloak, no Mobius reactor, no nuke available to them. So these are just going to be straight up fighting units, and he can't do anything creative with them, like cloak and then run them in and try to punish his opponent for not having any observers with his army. Would you see the extended thermal lance on the way, as well as a Colossus? So Vash just going for his ideal unit composition right away. And now Void looks like he wants to move out across the map. I'm not sure exactly what timing he's trying to hit with this. He might be trying to hit before that Colossus is out and just try and deal with the Templar on their own terms. You see, setting up the Ghosts for a little bit of a flank, and we'll see what Vash wants to do. If he's going to sit back and defend, or if he is going to try and take that engagement in the middle of the map. He needs to keep care of his Templar. There's only 3 of them with his army. There are 2 more in the Warp Prism, and then I believe 2 back in the main base. Maybe you'll need the 1 back in the main base. But it looks like this is just kind of a feint of pressure from Void, and he's going to go back to the middle of the map. So he's just kind of regathering his army. It looks like there are 3 more to go, so he's up to a total of 7, which is actually a pretty good number to have. If you get big EMPs onto the Templar and onto the Sentries, he can start kiting these charge lots for years, and maybe eventually come out on top. Although we see the big macro lead right now to Vash, 199 supply to 152. For like 69 workers to 62, not the greatest lead. So most of that lead is in army supply, and we do see that 40 army supply lead, which is gigantic at this stage of the game. And we even see Void supply blocked again, putting down more depots. Personal cloaking for Ghosts is now on the way, and he'll be able to maybe try and punish his opponent. He doesn't have an observer with his army, and that could be a problem for Vash. He does have the observer trailing behind the Terran army, so hopefully he's able to keep that close in order to deal with this Ghost. But now Vash maxed out, starting to bank up some minerals. He'd probably love to expand, get a 4th, get a 5th base, but right now really focusing on upgrades, getting his, I believe these are 3-3, adding on more and more gateways, and we'll see how many that brings him up to. Adding 5 more will bring him to just 9, it looks like. 10, excuse me. So he'll be up to 10 gateways. That's a pretty big reinforcement after this. Actually, he's got more over here, so 12 gateways. But the big engagement looks like it's going to happen in the middle of the map, and it doesn't look like Void wants to take this. He's starting to add on Vikings to try and deal with the Colossus count. But you need to have the right ratio of Vikings and Ghosts to help deal with the splash damage from the Protoss army. A couple of these Zealots getting ahead of themselves. They will take out a Marine. In comes the plane from the Ghost. This is unspotted, and he can't EMP all the Sentries and Templars as they trail behind. EMP onto the Sentries, but now they are spotted as they uncloak. He needs to EMP the Templar, and he actually doesn't get that done, so the Storm's still available. The Charge Lot's doing so much damage here. There's a Storm. Oh, those are not good Storms. That one's not a good one either, as he actually kills more of his Charge Lots than he does the Bio units. All the Vikings going down, the Colossus, though, still very healthy in the back, and a lot of these Zealots still alive. They're the only things actually doing damage right now, but they're able to just overrun Void's army, and this is just kind of a weird engagement happening, but the Zealot's able to clean everything up, and we do see the reinforcement actually not quite there yet from Void, but 160 supply, there's finally the reinforcement. 160 supply to 99. He's moving in. This last reinforcement needs to try and clean everything up. It looks like it might be able to hold, at least briefly. The Vikings actually doing a good job. Now only one Colossus is left. Vash forced to pull back. We do see the Storm coming down on a lot of the SCVs up here in the natural. There's still 3 Templar left alive, but he does need to pull back. The rest of the army coming in, another Storm coming off, trying to pick off as many of these SCVs as he can. Now taking down the third base. The big Zealot drop back into the main alpha, the War Prism. Another Storm going down, killing so many workers. 22 workers killed now. That Storm kind of whiffing and killing a lot of these Zealots, but some of these Marauders getting trapped inside their own barracks. A couple of these barracks at the front have gone down, so the production taking a hit from Void. All of both players just have so much bank right now that they can continually make units, and we do see Vash's Zealots still doing work down here. The rest of the main army has cleaned up the third base. 154 supply to 85, and these units finally getting cleaned up in the main, it looks like. That Zealot not quite able to kill his target. And now we'll kind of resettle down. A couple of Colossus rallying back in here for Vash. So he'll be up to a total of 3. He's got 3 Templars still. They don't have a Storm just yet, but it is pretty close. There the Storm comes up, so he can throw that down if he wants to. Forcing his opponent back. Nice micro from Void, keeping his core group of units alive. Now moving up the ramp, trying to gain whatever advantage he can. Another kind of missed Storm there from Vash, and he needs to hit one soon. He does hit one on top of the SCVs, and just cutting into his opponent's economy. Now the Colossus doing so much damage as there's nothing really to answer them. Only one Viking in the sky currently. Vash going to have to pull back for now as he whoops in more and more units in the middle of the map. The 4th base on the way in the middle of the map from Vash. Everything looking very, very good for him. Another Storm just kind of warding off the units from Void. And now Void in such a tough spot. He's got 2 command centers, but he doesn't have anywhere to mine from. He needs to get over to his 3rd base, but that can effectively be shut down pretty quickly. And he is going to plop down that 3rd base again. We see the SCV headed down there to do that. And Vash, meanwhile, is remaxed. He's throwing down some Archons to go with his army. This is War of the World-style Colossus. There's 6 of them. Just a handful of charge lots. There's 7 Colossus now. 8 Colossus, excuse me. 8 Colossus, 5 Archons, and just enough Zealots and Stalkers, I guess. But now probes transferring in. Let's actually look at the probe count. 71 to 28 right now. Workers killed are 42 to 1. And this is looking really good for our Protoss player. Void forced back onto basically 1 base right now. And even that's not a full base with the amount of minerals left. So this 3rd base needs to get up and running, and he somehow needs to deal with this gigantic 9 Colossus 5 Archon army that's headed across the map. There's only 1 Templar in with it, but that's not the biggest deal at this point. And he'll start taking down the destructible rocks and head into the 3rd. The Colossus actually just tear through destructible rocks too. They're a little bit overpowered, these units are. You know, the Colossus had a little bit trouble walking. It was because it was imbalanced. I mean, anyway, 3rd base forced to cancel, and Void now kind of setting up for his last defense. He has a pretty high Marauder count, although that doesn't matter against 9 Colossus. Excuse me, 11 Colossus, as 2 more have joined the party. 2 more Nexi on the way down in the bottom right-hand corner, and in comes the army of Vash. There are 2 Vikings again with this army to try and deal with 11 Colossus. Storm going down, that's actually the first really good Storm that he's had of the game. And there's the GG from Void. And Vash has taken a 3-0 lead for Team Composite in this Week 4 matchup. Congratulations to him. And we'll head into our first Platinum level game. And if Team Composite is able to win, they'll effectively take the week in the first 4 games. So please stay tuned for that. You're watching CTL Week number 4, casted by Meristematic.